Alright, here you guys go. Triangle congruency proofs, numbers 1 through 7. Alright? So, um, actually, I should make a duplicate so that I don't have to erase that later. Alright, so let's take a look. So, you guys have a given statement. And we need to prove that triangle ABC is congruent to triangle EDC. So, we have our statements on the left-hand side, you guys. Now, we need to just provide the reasons. So, for 1, your favorite, it is given, you guys. Okay? Now, let's kind of like observe this. So, we have BD's perpendicular to AB. So, that is the reason why you guys can write a 90-degree angle there. And BD is perpendicular to DE, which means we can write a 90-degree angle there. And I'll actually make this font a little bit smaller. And you guys, you got BC is congruent to DC, which is why you can write those 2 tick marks right there, showing that those 2 sides are congruent. Now, something else you guys should notice is it says angle ABC is congruent to angle EDC. Angle ABC. So it's this angle, you guys. Angle ABC is congruent to angle EDC. So they are talking about the 90-degree angles, you guys. And it says they are congruent. So they're congruent because you guys right angles are congruent. That is why you guys can say that statement. Okay, now let's look at the next line. Angle BCA, it says it's congruent to angle EDC. Wait. Oh, angle BCA is congruent to angle DCE. So it's talking about these 2 angles, you guys. That is congruent to that. And the explanation is these angles, you guys, are vertical angles. So vertical angles are congruent. Okay, and lastly, we have a triangle congruency statement. So let's annotate on top of the triangle and see what we have. So we just said this angle was congruent to this angle. They gave us this side is congruent to this side, and this angle is congruent to this angle. So take a look, you guys. You have angle, side angle, and angle, side angle. So the 2 triangles are congruent by angle, side angle. Okay. Now we're going to go to this one. Alright, so they already annotated for us, but it's always good for you guys to practice. So we got BC is congruent to CD from this statement. We got AC is congruent to CE or EC from this statement. So that's given. Now, angle ACB, which is this angle, you guys, is congruent to angle ECD, which is this angle. So why can we say those 2 angles are congruent? Because they are vertical angles. And vertical angles, you guys, are congruent. Now, we have a triangle congruency statement. So we got 1 pair of sides congruent to each other, 1 pair of angles congruent to each other, and 1 pair of sides congruent to each other. 2 sides and an included angle. So we have these triangles are congruent by side, angle, side. Okay. Number 3. So again, they already annotated it for us, you guys, but it's good for you guys to practice annotating and writing on your triangles. So YA is congruent to BA from this statement. Angle B, which is this one, you guys, is congruent to angle Y. And let's write down our statement, which is the given. Alright, now we wrote down our given stuff. Now let's look at the next statement. So it says, you guys, angle ZAY, so this angle, you guys, is congruent to angle CAB, which is this one. So why can we say these two angles are congruent, you guys? Because those are vertical angles, and vertical angles are congruent. Now let's look at now let's annotate and see what kind of statement we have. So this angle is congruent to this one. This side is congruent to this side, and this angle, you guys, is congruent to this angle. Angle, side, angle. Angle, side, angle. So these triangles, you guys, are congruent by angle, side, angle. Okay. Number 4. Alright, so for number 4, right, we have that two lines are parallel, right? So WX is parallel to YZ, and we got that WX is that side is congruent to that side, YZ. So let's write down our information, which is given. Alright, so it says, you guys, angle WXZ, so WXZ is congruent to angle YZX. So it's this one. So those two are congruent to each other. Now the question is why? Well, if I extended these for you guys so that you guys can see. So you guys take a look. This is talking about two parallel lines cut by transversal. And this angle, you guys, are alternate interior angles. And you guys know, if you have parallel lines, then alternate interior angles are congruent. Now lastly, we have XZ is congruent to XZ, so this is congruent to itself. That is the reflexive property, you guys, whenever it's congruent to itself. And then, you guys, we have a triangle congruency statement, right? So let's annotate. One pair of sides congruent, one pair of angles congruent, and one pair of sides congruent. Side, angle, side. Side, angle, side. So these are both congruent, you guys, by side, angle, side. Number 5. Alright, so angle K is congruent to angle M, right, you guys? So angle K is congruent to angle M. Now, you guys, it says L is the midpoint of KM. So, since this is in the midpoint, you guys, since that's the midpoint, that means that it's in between, it's the middle of this whole segment, which means you have two equal segments, right? Since it's in half, that means you have two segments that are congruent to each other. So first we have a given, and I forgot to write the rest of this down. L is midpoint of KM. So since it's a midpoint, you guys, that means LM is congruent to LK, because that's a definition of a midpoint. Now, we have angle JKL. Oh, sorry. Angle JLK is congruent to angle PLM. Now, why are those congruent? Because those are vertical angles, and vertical angles, you guys, are congruent. Now, let's just label everything. So this angle was congruent to this angle, right? This side is congruent to this side, and this angle is congruent to this angle. Angle, side, angle. Angle, side, angle. These triangles are both congruent by angle, side, angle. Okay. Number 6. So I'm just gonna write down our given statements, right? AE bisects BD. That is given. Alright, so let's look at this. So they say, you guys, this is 90 degrees, and this is, well, they're both right angles, which are 90 degrees. So it says, you guys, AE bisects BD. Now, remember, bisects means you cut it in half. You cut it into 2 equal pieces. So this AE, it cut this BD in half, which means this segment, you guys, has to be congruent to this one. Why? Because that's the definition of, notice it's a segment cutting another segment, right, you guys? So this is called definition of segment bisector. It's a segment cutting another segment. Now, angle ABC, so ABC, so it's a 90 degree, you guys, is congruent to angle EDC, which is the other 90. So why can we say those angles are congruent to each other? Because right angles are congruent, which makes sense. 90 degrees, you guys, is the same thing as 90 degrees. Now, this next one says, I'll do a different color, angle ACB, so this angle, you guys, is congruent to angle ECD. Why can we say that? Because those are vertical angles, you guys, and vertical angles are congruent. Now let's label, right? So this angle was congruent to this angle, this side was congruent to this side, and this angle was congruent to this angle. Angle, side, angle, angle, side, angle. So these triangles, you guys, are congruent by angle, side, angle. Okay, and the last one, you guys, gonna rewrite this. So bisects angle J, JM is perpendicular to KL. So this is given. Now let's analyze this, right? So you guys, it says JM bisects angle J. So JM cuts in half angle J into 2 equal pieces. So this angle is going to be congruent to this one, because JM bisects or cuts in half angle J. So MJK is congruent to MJL. And why can we say that? Because that's definition of an angle bisector. Notice this one's angle bisector, you guys, because a segment cuts in half an angle, which is why it's definition of angle bisector. So next it says angle JMK. I'm going to do a different color. Angle JMK, JMK is congruent to angle JML. And why is that? Because both of those angles are 90 degrees, right? Which means right angles are congruent to each other. Now, JM is congruent to JM, so that means this is congruent to itself, which is reflexive property. Now, let's label, right? We got one pair of congruent angles, right? One pair of congruent sides and one pair of congruent angles. Angle, side, angle, angle, side, angle. So these triangles are congruent by angle, side, angle. Get used to using definitions, you guys, and stuff, but you know, as you guys try to process it and practice, it becomes easier. But you guys need to put in the effort and work into trying to understand it. So hopefully that helps you guys out, and good luck, okay? Peace.